Hey everyone, hi, and welcome to the RegiCast. I'm your host, Reginald. Joining me today is Heather. Heather, how are you doing?
I'm good. Excited.
Good, really good. So as is tradition, I'm going to start with my really awkward blast. I'm going to try and keep it to 4 minutes though, so you guys don't fucking judge me in the comments. Okay. So let's first start off with this. I'm not Benjamin. I'm not Kendrick. I'm not. She has other interviews. Google her name, put in ENFP male, Benjamin. All right, good. Next. All right. So for those of you guys who don't know, to make a long story very, very short, the RegiCast, which is my podcast, the goal of it is to have really enjoyable and meaningful conversations. That's it. That's my goal. Okay. So as long as we get that, we're good. With that being said, a lot of the people I've talked to have been from the objective personality community. Basically, objective personality is a system attempting to make Myers-Briggs typology indicator more attractive to the scientific community. You know what? Since I only have like a few minutes, they have a website. Okay, so you guys can go consume that. Okay, so objectivepersonality.com, that's where they have their mission. Feel free to check that out. But the main point of that is, this is not going to be a scientific conversation. It's more about a lot of frameworks and insights that people have found meaningful enough to create communities around. Okay, so there's Facebook communities, YouTube communities, Discord communities, and that's where I've been talking to all of my guests so far. Okay, now if you're confused, for example, why would Reggie, what the hell, why would you say the word consume? What does that have to do with anything? There's going to be a lot of terminology that you may not get if you are not familiarized with the system. Okay, so that's why there are some links in the description to help you. Okay, so there's a beginner series from the founders with video to watch, text to read, as well as a YouTube playlist I've curated with 5-minute videos, as well as an interview at the end from someone who had no idea what these terminology was either. So feel free to go check that out as well. Now, with that being said, we do have a live chat. Okay, so we're going to be looking at your comments, or really I'm going to be looking at your comments because Heather doesn't want to deal with it. Okay. I'm messing with you.
But yeah, that's exactly how the conversation went.
Exactly. But we're gonna go through at some point. If your comment or live chat is relevant to the conversation, I'll throw it up on the screen and we'll talk about it. Otherwise, feel free to leave a comment and we'll address that. Okay. Finally, 2 major things. One, you can still, guys, I've been bodying people with shirtless Sephiroth in Smash Brothers. You already know what it is. My friend code is in my about page. Okay, come get bodied like the many victims that have come before me. That's my backwards way of making friends. Come be my friend by being disrespected. Okay, and then finally, game night for the OP community with Among Us and Jackbox Party games, including Quiplash, is going to be this Saturday. Okay, Saturday, February 6th from 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern, as well as 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern. If you're interested, feel free to message me or someone on the Team Rocket team. If you're in the OP community, you know what I'm talking about. But feel free to message us so we can prepare for you and we can host you appropriately, okay? We'd be happy to have you. And so, that's about it. That's it, okay? I made it under 4 minutes. So, Heather, welcome.
Thank you. Great job.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I tried. Okay. So, as is tradition, we're going to talk about some first impressions. We got to always do it. We got to do it.
I'm outside. Let's go. I love tradition.
We got to start with just the level of disrespect I've inflicted upon you with my first impression, okay? That's my reputation. I just want this confirmed for the record, and then I'll share mine, okay?
Oh, I go first?
Yeah.
Wow, that's not fair. I mean, you get to follow up with my first impression. So, I think one of the first things I thought, just seeing, because I didn't see your videos at first. First, it was just, catching you in some of the different things that you would comment on. My first thought was, man, this guy is like serious about growth and looks like he's really wants to, like just almost every question out there was like, how do I grow? How do I grow? How do I go? How do I address this? How do I address that? So that was like one of the first things I noticed about you, which I appreciate because I'm kind of the same way. The other thing I noticed was, especially when you started the videos, was like, holy cow, when did this guy sleep? Oh. I'll kind of check because usually I'm coming in at certain times of the day with Facebook. And so like, I'll look in there and I go, wow, it was like 5 hours ago. I literally just, well, I'm just now waking up. And that was like, just a couple hours before I was like, man, what's this guy's sleep? And just the sheer volume of material that you put out there is just incredible. So I was like, yeah, it just gotta be sleep last, like, and getting them out. So, so it's definitely appreciated. I also appreciated, I think from you, just the openness to be able to put the information out there and not have to have it be a certain way, and just the flexibility of being able to explore and allow it to go in the directions that it's going. And I appreciate that because that means we get a different flavor, a different look every time. So I like that as well. So those were kind of my first impressions.
Okay, really good.
And that chair, and I still want you to get a story on that chair. I know you haven't fallen. It's not a commitment to the chair. I get it, but I love that chair.
I love it too. It's not mine yet. It's just part of my rental situation. I do want to buy it at some point, but
yeah.
we'll get there. We'll get there eventually. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. My first impression, actually, I didn't process this, so hopefully I don't say anything fucking reckless.
That's fine too. I'm not going to worry about it.
I don't think you'll be reckless though. So my honest first impression would be, it's weird because I don't think mine was direct. I think my first impression was like almost word of mouth. Mm-hmm. I don't know from where, demon sensory, but you have a very good reputation. That's my first impression. Yeah, you do.
Good.
Yeah, you do. I don't remember from who. I'm not making this up. I just literally can't remember who. But it's several people in a row. It's like, oh yeah, Heather's great. Oh yeah, she's really fun to talk to. Those type of things. So that's where my impression initially started getting formed of just okay, I'm getting a good vibe from the impression, like from other people's point of view. If I'm being quite honest, that's why I reached out because I don't know you that well.
That's true. You and I have not, I think, ever.
Yeah.
I mean, other than maybe comments on posts or something, you and I have never had, verbal
contact. Yeah. And one thing I would add is, I don't know if this is my impression. Oh no, actually it is, but I know this is like a common reputation thing with you as well. I do remember skimming Kendrick's video because look, as much as I like disrespecting people who skip around on videos, I 100% skip around on videos. Okay. So when I was skipping around Kendrick's video of you or his interview of you, I do remember you were incredibly well-spoken. And not in I'm not saying this in like the weird condescending way. Like, how some people do that. I legitimately mean, it's like, okay, this is a person who has some type of advanced degree in something, something must have happened. Okay. She has some type of advanced training because this is a lot of smart words. So
college words.
Yeah. Yeah. Really good.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. So those are the first impressions. And I guess, so let me ask you this, just given your type, and we'll start transitioning to the OP immediately, just because I think it'll be relevant. But
yeah,
I mean, did you know that about your reputation? Like, it sounds like you're almost surprised.
I didn't know. Yeah. I'm almost. Usually, I am genuinely surprised when I hear people give their impressions. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm more likely if you were to pick up on certain things of, yeah, you see, if you were to pick up on something maybe that was maybe negative, because I'm probably more on alert, concerned about that, I'd be like, yeah, I totally see that. But like positive stuff, it's a little bit more like, oh, cool. Okay. Yeah. So I don't know that I really thought, no. Yeah.
Right.
It's nice to hear though.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, it's true.
A bad reputation. So
yeah, it's true. I haven't heard yeah, trust me. If you had a bad reputation, I would have let you know by now. Trust me, believe me. Okay. So you're good. So let's start with OP. Okay. Mm-hmm. Let's start with objective personality. There's going to be several facets as you know. So one, we're going to go into your type, but then I also do want to at some point talk about like your professional hot take on it, right? Because you do work in areas of mental health, and I know OP, they talk about mental health, so we're going to get into that. Okay. But let's start with the type itself. Okay. So can you share with us, first of all, you being a decider. Okay. I don't get it. Okay, let's start with that.
It's painful. Me as a decider, yeah, it's so funny because when I originally when I was getting my master's, I had done the official paid for Myers-Briggs in college, and I was ENFP. And so for a long, long time, I just thought I was an EP, don't control me kind of an attitude. I always thought I was a perceiver, not a judger. I'm like, what? Those people are organized. And like my whole perception of that was my husband, who's an IJ. And so, my whole bent was basically towards being an EP. I really didn't fully understand. I didn't understand TE or SI or any of that. And so once Dave and Shannon began to explain that it's built on Tony Robbins' human needs, immediately I went to go and see, well, what are they talking about? Because I'm familiar with Tony Robbins. And so I went and watched the human needs and I go, oh, okay, now it's starting to click with me. And so that clicked more than anything else, more than like the individual functions, was the human needs. So that first human need of the EJ, of the desperate need for connection and belonging and all of that, just totally resonated. And I did have to stop and think, wait a minute, do I spend a lot of time talking about things? Do I spend a lot of time talking about people? What is my world revolving around? And as much as I don't want to admit it, it's around people. It's around people. And so, end of the day, that's what I'm going to move around, especially as, feminine FI. I'm going to be moving around the tribe and shifting who I am for the tribe's sake. And I can see the difference with my double deciding husband, who doesn't seem to be as bent out of shape over things. He doesn't freak out over people. He's not as worried. He doesn't feel as responsible. Not that he doesn't feel responsible, but not to the degree that I do. So there's just this huge responsibility I feel about people.
Right.
And their happiness, I had to learn how to stop taking responsibility for their mood states, for their well-being. It's like, it's this huge feeling on that.
Right. Now, okay, so let's start with this. So, given that you have the decider life, how do you feel about, first and foremost, about observers when they freak out? I'm curious about that.
Yeah, so I've been married for 30 years. I'm 50. Okay. I've been married for 30 years and to an IJ. And so it's funny because if something breaks or something malfunctions or something goes off the rails or whatever, he's like, oh my gosh, and we need to do this. And I'm like, it's okay. Let me just tinker with it. Let me play with it. Let me figure it out. Let me fix it. It's not that big of a deal. We'll just replace it or whatever. So like things like that don't, so when I can kind of see it now, I see it. I used to not realize that that's what was going on. And so one of the things that we had early on in our marriage was I could tell he's very particular about his things, and I wasn't. And so for a long time, I was very put out by that, thinking that things are more important. And I was very put off by that. Right. And so that's the way it kind of comes off to me. Yeah. Like, why would things be more important to you than people? And I didn't understand that was just, it was an observer versus decider thing. And so, so there would be times when I would have to do something with the kids when they were young, and it was his car versus my car, and kids are messy and they're just getting crap everywhere. Right. It's like things would get messy in his car and he'd flip out more than I would, versus like my car that has stains and stuff stuck everywhere. And I'm like, it's a car. It is what it is. Or if a scrape happened, he's noticing that. It's like, where did this scrape come from? I don't know. I don't know where it came from. Right. So I opened the door and scraped it. So definitely, I look at that and I think, why is the thing so important to you? So I've grown to kind of appreciate and understand that it is important. And so over the years, I've gotten better about treating things more respectfully because of him, and understanding that things are important, take care of them. So that's actually something I've learned from him. Right. Because before it's like the thing.
Yeah. So, and just to contrast, right, and if you did say this in the beginning, I apologize, but just a contrast with your, let's say, where you get fixated. So I know Dave and Shannon have recently put in the class, like, deciders are primarily about like fairness and respect. Like that's the whole, like you, me talk.
EJs are.
Okay. So how, like practically, like what does that look like? You know, if you had to paint a similar picture of yourself and maybe your husband's like, what the hell's going on?
Which he does. Yeah. So I'll sit there and think, you know, if we're trying to change something in particular, you know, when it centers around like the church, because we're in leadership there. So if it centers around that, I'm like, well, have you taken into consideration that, you know, is it fair? What about these people? Or what about those people? Or have you thought about what they would think? Is it working for them, not working for them? Whereas for him, he's just trying to make this decision based on whatever is efficient or whatever he's thinking through. And so he's like, well, calm down. I don't think, and he's not telling me that. He would never tell me that. But in essence, it's like, I don't think it's as big of a deal that maybe you're thinking that it might be. I think people will be a little bit more cool than maybe you think they will. So that's where my freak out comes in. You know, more along that line. With the kids, it's way more with the kids.
Okay.
Sure. Like with our kids, which they're grown now. One's 25, one's 22. And so with them, I'm just freaking out when things aren't going well in their lives, like meltdown. Oh my gosh, things are good. We got to do this, got to do that. He's like, they're okay. It's going to be fine. So he was always the more calm about the children and their lives than I was.
Yeah. Wow. Really good. Have you, like, how have you learned to manage that, or have you learned to manage that?
Right. The question is, yeah. Well, some of it is now is just, at least I have an awareness. I'm a little bit more cognizant of the fact that this is getting triggered for me, and what do I do about it? Like I had mentioned to you when we were kind of prepping for this earlier, was this big Decider Freakout this week for me. So what happened was, so this will help because it'll explain kind of a story, and it'll also bring in a bit of my IJ-ness, which is my second function there. So what happened is that the company that I work for is a huge healthcare company. I've been with the company now for about 6 years. I've had different roles in that company because I get bored. I'm not challenged enough. So it's like, I got to find something that challenges me. So I'm finally in a role that I love. I just absolutely love it. It hits everything for me as far as my personality. So I get to be creative. I get to blast all the time. The women all get along. I love my team. I love my managers. So everything is like wonderful. And so I'm like, last year, and the problem is when I can't see something coming, when it hits me, it like really upends me. So last year, it was right before COVID struck. This team that I absolutely love, we ended up getting cut in half. And so I show up to this meeting, and literally I'm sitting here going, why are there only half of us in this meeting? And I was the 5 that got to stay out of the team that was there, which just completely blew me away because I was not ready for it. It was just completely out of the blue. And so that petrified me from then on, because I'm thinking, okay, when is the next shoe going to fall and I'm going to lose my job? And so that was my immediate fear. And so I didn't really process that very well, other than the fact of, okay, you know, TE jump in and go, it's okay, Heather, we'll figure it out. I'll just get another role in the company. I can find other ways. I'm a licensed professional. I can do private practice. So I start trying to process and go into thinking rather than processing the pain of it.
Yeah.
And so with that, now it's stuck in that SI, because now I'm never going to forget. Now I'm always going to be hyper vigilant and alert to see, you know, what is there a possibility that something else could hit me out of the blue? And so now I'm just nervous about that for the better part of a year.
Yeah. So do you mind if I like ask a clarifying question? Like, I see where's the Decider freak out of that?
So the Decider, so I'm getting there.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So no, I'm getting there. I'm sorry. So what happened is I wasn't processing that, because the only thing I was processing was the fact that I was afraid that I might lose my job. And so, you know, I was the one that did get to stay. So fast forward now to this past week, and I've been worried about this entire time. So we got our yearly evaluations this week.
Okay.
And we spent a lot of time doing these evaluations. I have all these folders, these SI folders that kind of keep track throughout the year of things I've accomplished, things I've done, so that I can write this up. I spent hours doing this. The manager spends hours doing this. We put all this in, and then you get a particular score. Now, I've always gotten exceeds in all the different positions I've had. That's never been different. And so this time around, my manager put exceeds in both of them, but the overall, because the company changed the way they did things, the overall was meets. And meets means that you meet most of the time and occasionally you exceed. And I was like, what? Excuse me? So it's like, that's when it was like this flip that happened to me. And I just was so mad. I had all these emotions raging at one time. And I was so mad over it. And like, I don't understand this. And so I had this conversation with my supervisor, and she's a FE lead. And so she's immediately telling me, this has nothing to do with your value. And so I think that's part of the misunderstanding that I had about TE and FI, that somehow FI needs to hear I'm valuable. And so I'm like, I don't need to hear that I have value. I know I have value. My fear is that you don't see that I have value. That's where my fear is. Because if you don't see that I have value, then what's going to happen is you're going to get rid of me.
Yeah.
And so I'm constantly in that company busting my butt to have value to them, so I don't end up of what happened last year, getting cut. So that was like my first reaction. I was mad because, one, the verbiage that they used did not add up. It's like what you're saying does not even match. But then I had to deal with the fact that not only was I freaking out over that now, I'm not going to have value. They're going to get rid of me, which is my FI fear.
Yeah.
But go ahead. Were you going to say something?
No, keep going.
Yeah. So that was part of the thing that I hadn't been processing that whole year. And the other thing I didn't process that really hit me hard too is the fact that I felt incredibly betrayed.
Mm-hmm.
It just felt like a betrayal. It's like, I am busting my butt for you.
Yeah.
And I get this.
Yeah.
So I feel incredibly betrayed. And then I think even the more painful part of that is that I had this idealistic, which I don't know how to stop that, but I have this idealistic thing of, this wonderful, dreamy, double feminine enough. I don't know what's doing it, but this wonderful like pedestal thing that I put either people on or I put my company on. And so it's wonderful and everything's great and fine. And then this happens and I'm like, what in the world? And the pedestal comes crashing down for me.
Right.
So, I'm just sitting here freaking out thinking, well, what about other people on the team? Am I the only one? So now like I'm embarrassed. It's like all of these emotions going off.
Yeah.
Plus the whole like wanting to like fire back with, it's like, this is wrong. This is unfair.
Yeah.
And I'm like, literally had an entire email scripted out, which I actually met with my director to step me off the ledge.
Okay.
Because I had this whole email written out about how wrong this was, about how unfair this is, about how this doesn't work for everyone.
Yeah.
All my evidence, and because I was so like just flipped out about the whole thing. Yeah. So is that closer to?
Yeah. I know people like you. What the fuck?
Wonderful.
So let's pretend to be sleep saviors, okay? Let's pretend. Okay. This is me peacocking to fucking hell. Let's stop and process this, okay? First of all, I think what you said about FI and versus FE is extremely important, actually, right? Where you're like, because that happens a lot to me too. It's like, they're like, hey, you're okay as you are when you're this, and they want to give you like good feelings. Now, I think there's a place for that. I'm not even discrediting that.
Yeah.
But I think what you said about the FI and the TE, it's like, I know, but I need to show with my actions that, it's indisputable that So it's almost like the TE is trying to, how do I word this? It's mistaking its solutions for value is what it sounds like. It's like, oh, if I make all this stuff work, then you'll obviously know I'm valuable, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Which is
Very
dumb.
astute. Very astute. Yes.
It's not true. It's not true at all.
No, and it's not. And that's what was upsetting me, because there was no rhyme or reason to it.
Yeah.
There was none. It's like, if it's not that, in fact, even after they cut the 5 people, all the people that got cut in front of me, it wasn't based on seniority, because they were all there years before I was.
Exactly.
So I actually met with my director and said, what is it about me that kept me here?
Yeah.
So I want to do more of that. So when this just comes out of the blue,
yeah.
Like, then how in the hell am I supposed to sit there and process this? I don't even know what you expect then.
Yeah.
Because I checked off all your boxes. And if I can't rely on that in the system that you set up, what am I supposed to do with that? I'm just lost. But go ahead.
No, really good. I don't know why I'm doing this to you today, Heather. You're bringing out a different side of me. All right, you're bringing out the MT for real. Now you guys are going to see how NE works, okay? So how I'm looking at this is like, okay, not only is this, I think it's really important what you said about the FI and the TE. I think I'm still confused about that, but I think it's good to flag. But also what you're saying sounds like Demon NF, possibly even Demon NF consumed to me. Because like, there's this.
Yeah, explain to me. Probably is.
Absolutely. So the reason I'm saying this is because, as you said, you're like, I checked off all the sensory boxes. I did the thing. I made it work. So what the fuck's the problem? The problem is that we're fucking human and we're irrational as fuck. There's another side, right? So a good way to understand the other side of, let's say, for example, corporate America at very least.
Yes.
If you've ever even heard of Robert Greene.
No.
Okay, no problem. So Robert Greene is an author who focuses on like this. For him, it's still kind of like a weird demon, but it's like this demon NF territory of look at like how irrational people are and how they like make decisions based on emotions. Like he wrote books like the 48 Laws of Power, and I think there was the Laws of Human Nature, right? Where he basically talks about how, by virtue of the fact that we're emotional, they're making decisions emotionally, right? And so to translate it back, what I'm seeing is you didn't take that into account.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, well, I made the ST work. I signed a contract. I fulfilled the contract. We should be good, right?
Exactly.
No, that's never how the shit works.
Then that sucks for someone like me.
I know, right?
And that's hence the tidal wave.
Yeah, it's some bullshit. I agree. Look, it's bullshit. I absolutely agree.
Well,
yeah.
Yeah, and I definitely, because my husband, was able to help me a bit in that as well, and say, because my first thought was, okay, let me calm down, because I didn't send this email, because the email I was sending was literally to the top, not the CEO of this. I mean, this is a multi-billion-dollar company.
You were going to email the CEO?
No. But the person who is the chief for our particular umbrella of the company, which is still way
pretty high
up there, but he's always said there's an open door policy.
Right.
And so my normally I'm very thinking oriented, but when this happens, like I just lose my mind and I can't think straight, and I'm just like what you're doing. I'm missing the NF consume. So my director asked me a very point question, because I ended up talking to her before I sent it out, because I wasn't going to send this email out because it was going to bring attention. I don't care if it brought attention to me, because it was unfair the way that they did this. What they ended up doing is they calibrated. So this is the missing data, which I was frustrated with. They did it on a bell curve. And so what that meant is even though literally I met exceeds, the problem is you have some supervisors that are too giving out high marks and some that are hardcore and giving out lower marks.
Right.
They're trying to make this whole thing equal. And I go, okay, I get that. I'm all for that. But here's the problem. Your system doesn't work because of people like us. My entire team, who are all incredibly achieving, ended up with meats. And so in my mind, I'm thinking long-term possibilities for this company that I love. Do you realize what happens then? People like me who are high achievers are going to go look elsewhere. So it's going to backfire. And so that's kind of what was going through my mind on these different levels. And so she basically asked me, Heather, I have a feeling this person that, and it was just the head up right here. I had this person that you were going to send to probably had nothing to do with this. He may be frustrated over as well. And do you need to pick and think about choosing your battles. And is this one that you want to do that draws attention to you or whatever, the team, whatever, is this the one you really want to pick? And so I had to step back, and I at least knew enough to not just shoot that off, which I did not do, but it felt good writing it at least and entertaining it and walking through the process, because it was the first time in a year, like I'm trying not to cry right now. It was the first time in a year that I did the SF sleep processing about my experience of how painful this has been for what happened. And so when that hits, it's like just the dam broke loose into me. And it's like I couldn't shove it away anymore. I couldn't TE it. I couldn't do all this stuff. And you're right. It's like the end of consume just bit me in the butt. And I had to like deal with, you know, the way I was not processing.
Yeah.
So like there's just the full vulnerability right there. Yeah. Nice and fresh.
You said what?
It's nice and fresh. This
nice
like
and fresh. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, it's cool. And honestly, it's like, I just understand that this is just the way it is. It's corporate America, as you say. And so then it's like, you know, I still love my company. I'm still going to stay, you know, and, you know, so it's just, it is what it is. It's not perfect.
Right.
And I have to accept that and live in corporate America. And when corporate America doesn't work, it drives me nuts.
Yeah.
For everyone, that drives me crazy. Especially when it's a system that doesn't work and people end up getting harmed. That's such a horrible way to say that. People end up getting whatever. Yeah. Because to me, it's just, Okay, I'm done.
Don't even trigger me with that shit.
But I want to come back to that thing that you were talking about. I'm curious what you think about that FI though.
Okay.
Yeah, where, unless you had another question before that.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm curious that, because it was the first time I'd had that thought that with FI, I didn't need my supervisor manager to basically make me feel like I had value.
Yeah.
It's like, no, that's not my fear. It's the fear that you don't see my value. Yeah. What did that come with you?
No problem. So honestly, where my mind is going,
I
have a coworker who's like just like this. I swear to God, she's double masculine, TE at the top. She does the same shit. I think she might be an ENTJ jumper though, personally, but she does the same shit where it's like she overworks. So like she's definitely demon sleep as well. She's overworking, right? She's crushing it though. She's like carrying our I'm in sales. She's carrying our branch easily.
Yeah,
carrying it. Yeah. Like she could take like 2 months of vacation and like she's still carrying us. Like that's the level to which she's outperforming right now.
Yeah,
but like she still will have like these level of freakouts of like, look, like, you know, so for example, I'd probably have to keep this super vague because if she watches this, she'll fucking like wring my neck. Like if you know, so let me keep it super vague for my safety.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically,
don't mess with her.
Yeah. So basically, her big thing was, how can you not see how much I'm doing for you? Right.
Yes.
Like, like, and you know, hopefully this is still vague enough that I don't get killed. She's like, okay, why haven't I gotten a promotion by now?
Right.
Right. Those type of things. Right. Yeah. Where's the respect? That's her whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But like you said, she doesn't give a fuck about like really nice flowery language about, oh, you know, you're valued and I really appreciate your sentiment here. And no, it's, you know, we'll throw a party for you. She's not the one to do that with. She wants to,
affirmation. It's not that I don't mind hearing it.
Yeah.
It's nice, but yeah, I totally agree. And this is the thing too, that I've noticed with EJ. It's like, we kind of have this thing where we get this into this mindset of like, it's not like I'm asking for much.
Yeah.
And so it's like we feel like we're giving and giving and giving, which nobody probably even freaking asked for.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so then when it's not reciprocated or not acknowledged or whatever it is, it's like it's just this easy way to lose our minds.
Okay, so let me ask you then. So I do think we're going to shift gears a little bit, but I'm leveraging this one coworker that will remain nameless.
You can go wherever you want to go.
I really don't want to die. I'm really stressed out. I'm having like a mini freak out over here. I'm like, why am I even talking about this? Oh my God. She would kill me. Okay. Now, but I'm leveraging my SI of this person.
Yeah.
Okay? So this is going to be more towards the feminine FI. Okay. So we've been talking about the TE. Her feminine FI, it in my experience, it takes a while to get to. But when you get to it, she's like, it's almost like you need to like give her a hug all the time. That's how I feel. I'm like, this is sad.
Give her a hug. What you say? Give her a hug.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not saying that's you necessarily, but I just wanted to see, is your FI something similar, given that it's feminine? Does it take a while for people to get to it, especially since it's like you're double activated on the masculine TE?
Yeah, that's a great question. The interesting. So if you can see the picture that's behind me, the print that's behind me, that's actually, I know it's kind of hard to see. So basically, it's a big oak tree, and there's a small girl that's sitting inside of that oak tree.
Okay.
That's a lot. That really, to me, and I love that picture. My grandmother had bought it for me, who raised me in a lot of different ways. And so she had bought it for me, and it kind of hung out in her attic until probably about a decade ago. And she found it. And when I looked at it, it's actually was done in 1975, which, okay, I'm old. Okay, but I was 5 at the time.
Oh, okay.
I was like, wow. And I would love, basically hiding up in these big oak trees, and just because I felt so secure, and I was like, had this place. And so that to me is kind of a visual. And one of the things I used to tell my kids when they were young, and I realized I was speaking more to me than them, it's like they would have the world that would hit them. So they'd have some, catty person who had made fun of them or hurt them or something like that. I said, well, I want you to think of it like you have a shield. So this is TE. I want you to think of it like this. You have this shield in front of you. So you basically, when something comes at you, you can decide whether or not it's going to penetrate and what you're going to allow in or not allow in. Mm-hmm. But on this side, you still want things to get out. So you still want to be loving and kind. So don't allow this to get super hardened where you don't have the ability to love and you get bitter. And so that's what I realized. It's like, wow, now looking back, I was talking about the way TE works for me. So TE is kind of like a shield that kind of goes around in life. And it's, so if I'm walking through a crowd, I'm probably banging into people, and intentionally, because it's kind of strong and hard and it's right there. And so it's just something that's a bit of a way to distance myself from the access that a person has to that inner part of me. So if it is switching analogy, sorry. So if it's a home, I'm not going to let people into those back rooms. Right. You're going to sit on the porch, or you're going to get right here. And so that's kind of the way that TE works for me. But masculine TE, to be honest with you, I'm just as tough on myself in that sense. Like, I do have a high standard. I do have a certain high standard, but I'm not super mean about it. I'm not, going to be mean about it, but I tend to be tough on me as well. And a lot of times masculine TE doesn't give my feminine FI necessarily a break either. Mm-hmm. And so it has this super high standard, especially with SI as well. And a lot of times it's saying, my TE saying, well, it's about the tribe. So, my feminine FI is going to move around the tribe when it's, so it's kind of like this shield that's out in front of me that I'm kind of walking around. Yeah. So if I kind of drop that shield or allow certain things in, like I allow you into that FI, because that's not typically what I'm presenting, it takes a while to get there. But if I'm allowing access to that, the moment that I feel a threat, then I immediately kind of harden up out here to keep that distance from the FI.
Yeah. Now, so my question would be, and this is me 100% processing at this point.
Yeah.
Would you say that one of the things that triggers you to put your shield up, so to speak, is incompetence of other people. Like if you sense they don't like they can't take care of themselves or they're incompetent, do you put your guard up?
No, I don't know that would. I don't think that would throw my guard up.
Okay.
Yeah, that it's more along the lines like because with SI, typically I'm for the most part I'm usually pretty open and kind of bop along in life, and I'm honestly not super cynical. Usually pretty trusting and see the good of people, and so until there's something that gives me evidence to the contrary, then usually I just kind of believe the best about people. But the moment that there's something that gives me some evidence or something to the contrary, that's when this comes up. Now, I probably am up all the time. I probably don't realize how much that masculine TE is kind of there in kind of protecting, feminine FI. But it will just harden up, or I'll be extra guarded if it's someone that I'm like, especially if I can't read them. Like if I can read the person, then I'm a little bit more like, okay. But the moment I can't read you, or there's some type of reaction that I'll be going, okay, let me, I tend to be I'll harden up a little bit more. Yeah. I don't know that incompetence does that. I will tell you that as far as like things, as far as incompetence, as far as TE goes, my respect level would maybe, not be as high.
Right.
But I don't know about guarding.
Right. Okay.
But another example as far as TE and being rough on FI is kind of like, do you have siblings? So, but you probably catch the analogy here. It's like, I can be mean and rough and tumble with my sibling and poke on them and whatever, but no one else can.
Right.
So that's kind of how masculine TE, where it's like, you can be super hard on me and go, come on, FI, da, 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 da. But the moment someone else does, yeah.
That explains that shit. I know, man. That explains that bullshit. Because sometimes I'm like, why? I thought we were friends.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. This is a mini compare contrast. I feel like I do something similar. Sometimes I feel like masculine FI is worse than masculine TE.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest. Because it's like,
tell me.
It's a similar analogy, right? It's like, I can beat up on you and no one else can, but it's like, I get emotionally intense with the people I care about. Like, it's like, I think that can be overwhelming, especially if it's someone who's demon feeling. That's like a nightmare, So to give you a perfect example, like, I'll give you a perfect example. This is happening at work as we speak. At work, for most of the time, I'm very feminine TE. Oh, hey, what can I help you with? Fucking customer service motherfucker guy. Okay, that's my persona. But recently, over the past few months, my coworkers have gotten to some level of my FI, and like, so now they have to deal with my abuse on the back end of, let's say I do some customer service shit, and then now I'm calling them like, hey, this is fucking annoying, and like, what was this? And they're like, Reggie, can you calm down? But my masculine FI is never calm. It's annoying.
Yeah, I tend to relent quickly. My feminine FI will relent very quickly. Like, it doesn't tend to be like TE. I think people go, oh, they're so rough and aggressive or whatever. But I'm not mean. Like, it would kill me to be mean. Like, I'm the type where wasn't that long ago, I went in and I think I was just out of sorts. I didn't feel good. I was just in a bad mood in general. And so whoever the person was on the other side of the desk, I was kind of snippy with them. And I left, got in my car. I literally got out of my car, went back in and goes, I am so sorry. You probably have a tough time. And that was, it was uncalled for. I did not mean to make your day worse.
Yeah.
So it's like, I can have this real tough exterior of like, quick judgment. And it'll be like this harsh, quick, whatever judgment I have. And the moment that I see any vulnerability, it just melts me. It's like, oh, okay. It's like, it just melts me. And
I know.
And I just relent because I don't want the disconnection, especially like in a relationship, because my husband's actually a masculine FI. He's much more solid, immovable than I am on the back end.
I'm going to say this.
So I'll relent. Yeah, go ahead.
Don't judge me. Okay. My masculine FI at least, but I actually genuinely think masculine DI in general, but my masculine FI when people get vulnerable, at least in a competitive environment, I enjoy that more. It's like, I'm gonna crush you now. You just showed weakness. I'm gonna destroy you now.
Wow.
Like,
yeah.
it's pretty fucked up. To the point. I'll give you a good sensory example. Okay, so once upon a time, I used to play a board game called Go. Don't even worry about it. It's like a variant of chess, or not really, but it's a strategy board game. Okay. And they were like, I was playing at a college, and they were like these old men. You know how old men like to play board games so they can feel like they have a life. You know, this guy, he opened. There was a moment of weakness in his game. I destroyed this man, and I was smiling. And I remember the reason I'm bringing this up is I later retold this story, if I'm not mistaken, to some people in the OP community, and they're like, Reggie, like, it sounds like something's wrong with you. And I was like, yeah, maybe, but I just like enjoy crushing my opponents. That's just how it, like, Kobe Bryant type stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I just wouldn't even fathom that. Like, I would feel so horrible doing that. I wouldn't sleep that night.
No, that's how you go to sleep.
Yeah. And yeah, you sleep. Can sleep. Yeah, I could see that a little bit more with my husband. Yeah. So that's why it's like, am I competitive? It's not that I'm not competitive, but I'm going to do it in a more fair way. And the moment that I feel like, this is hurting you, or this is difficult or embarrassing you. Like, I'm noticing that, I think they're getting to, okay, let me just pull back. Yeah. It's very, very, very much relenting, careful, and yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel like you project your feminine FI onto other people? Like, do you just act as if everyone has a feminine interior, or like a vulnerable interior?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. And they don't. And what I like, though, is like my husband doesn't. So sometimes it's nice because I don't have to worry about, hurting his feelings or whatever. It's like, yeah. So it's kind of nice. It's nice being married to a guy.
Yeah.
Masculine FI. It's like, okay, I don't have to like worry about that as much.
Yeah, really good. Okay, yeah, man. Anyway, my masculine FI is interesting sometimes, but okay. So we got the deciders. I mean, your observers. I mean, do you even think your observers are a big deal to you?
I mean, I don't know that I don't have as many of the tidal waves. I mean, the biggest tidal waves or the biggest difficulties I have with it is my frustration that I don't do certain parts of it better. Like, I get very frustrated that my intuition is not better. So I see the deficits in that, and my frustration that I just walk around scared half the time, wanting that security and that certainty. And so that can be frustrating. I see the deficits and the lack of intuition. And so it's more that. Right. But I'm like, okay, it's not going to freak me out. It's like, that's fine. I'll play off the tribe. And
okay, really good. Heather, let's move on. I'm over it. Well, there's questions and answers, guys. Ask your questions about her type, but we need to move on. Okay, I'm interested in cooler shit. I'm sorry. So let's talk about OP now. Okay, in the context of your professional, acumen or expertise, right? Mm-hmm. So first, if you could actually just describe what you do for a living, just so I can qualify this.
Yeah, so my bachelor's is in social work. So I'm a social worker at heart. I've been in mental health now, or in that field, since the 90s. So everything that I've done has pretty much been in that field for the most part. Okay. Other than the preschool music I did for a while. So for the most part, it's been in that field. Then I went back and eventually got my master's in counseling. So that's what my master's is in. I ended up with getting my license. So I'm a licensed professional counselor. So think of that in the terms of like a therapist, not school counseling, but therapy. Right. So I did that. I spent time in private practice. I've worked in local mental health clinics. I've done crisis work. I worked at a psychiatric facility. I also was their director of business development. So I'm like, I should understand how business goes. So I did that quite a bit. And then I got certified in nutritional psychology. So this is a newer field. Nutritional psychology, nutritional psychiatry are newer fields. And the idea is how do things like micronutrients, lifestyle, sleep diet, exercise, all that stuff, the impact that it has on mood.
Right.
So I deep dive into that. So I spent a lot of time with trying to be integrated of the impact between physical health and mental health and where do they meet.
Okay.
Then now I'm almost done. I'm almost right at the end. So at the end of next month, so I have a month away, I will be a functional medicine certified health coach on top of all that.
Right.
My side hustle.
Well, congrats.
So, yeah, thanks. So functional medicine and the way that I think, and this also can kind of come into this OP thing, the way that I think is what is the upstream? So if you are sitting in a room and you have the faucet going and the water is overflowing, conventional medicine, for the most part, what insurance will pay for, what they have time for is to mop up the floor. Whereas functional medicine says, let's go turn off the faucet.
Okay.
So they're going to look at the systems of the entire body. There's 7 different systems in the body. So they're looking at it from that perspective and they're testing, not guessing. So they're looking at the sensory, exactly what are the numbers, what's impacting what. So that to me is kind of the way that my brain works.
Okay, really good. So I did all this TE setup. So I'm giving you behind the curtain, right? So here's the NE. All that was a setup for us to talk about Dave and Shannon, start talking some shit. Okay.
Okay.
You ready for that? Okay.
Yeah.
So Dave and Shannon, as you know, I love them to death. First of all, I love Dave and Shannon to death. So let's not get it twisted. Okay. However, just the information that has been proliferated, whether it be about mental health, I know some people are talking about like neurotypical or certain disorders. They've spoken about that. There's been some contention there. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to hear your hot take on that.
The kerfuffle. There was a kerfuffle. Yeah. I think a couple of videos that I remember, the one that got the big press was a couple of months ago on the ADHD one. Yep. And that's where I remember it really kind of blew up. Before that, I think they'd had one on personality disorders in general. And I remember the first time, because I'm coming from that field, so automatically I'm coming in with this kind of, I don't want to say expertise, but a little bit more knowledge because it's kind of my wheelhouse for the past 20, 30 years. So when I read that, I immediately go, do they know what they're talking about? So that was my first reaction to it. And not just suspend that, open up, stop doing this, clamping things down, learn something new. And so some of the things they were talking about is, okay, cool. That's interesting possibilities and things like that. So once we get to the ADHD, let me state the positive. What I love about what they're doing in it is that I feel like, as far as I can tell, they're hardest to normalize. And what I'm hearing is kind of this push towards, let's stop pathologizing everything. And I appreciate that. I appreciate the desire to not do that. And so is it possible that it's ADHD, or maybe this just a kid that's restless and has all this stuff going on and their sleep last and OE and whatever that is? So I get that. So my issue then with them is a couple of things that I noticed. Where I feel like they went amiss is in the sensory.
Okay.
Because, that's where I feel like it went amiss. So for instance, if you think of this, let me pull this together in my brain. So this is what I'm trying to understand. So if you think of it like a Venn diagram, they have the personality stuff down, like amazing. I love what they're doing. I spend time in this because I believe in what they're doing and I love it. And to me, they just have a menu of options that's way deeper and has so much more than, say, MBTI for me personally. So if you look at this side, though, here's the scientific community, psychiatry, and all of that. So in the middle, I think that they are connecting in certain ways in the middle. Yep. So they may be looking at the same thing, but the way that they came to their conclusions and the way they come to their conclusions might be a bit different. So this is what I'm trying to understand. Because, so for instance, and then I'll kind of talk about where I'm confused about Dave and Shannon, and I would love to get your take on this.
Okay.
So on their website, you and Mina talked about this. On their website, they say that they do double blind. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting here thinking, where did they get that from? Because it's unequivocally incorrect.
Okay.
and not even in the ballpark.
Okay.
The only ballpark that they're in is as a science thing. That's it. But a double blind is completely different. You can go look that up. What they're doing is inter-rater reliability, which is basically they have a tool, and it's two people that are sitting in two separate rooms,
Yes.
coming together and seeing the same thing.
Yes.
And what is the percentage of it? And they're killing that. Killing it. They're what, 90 some odd %, right?
Yeah.
Killing it. So to me, that's what should be on their website. And
Wait, what'd you call that? What'd you call that?
It's inter-rater reliability.
Okay.
Inter-rater reliability, IRR.
Okay.
And so with that, then, I'm automatically kind of thrown by that going, where are they getting their information from? Then the second thing that throws me is they say many times in their videos that they're not infodom. And so they'll joke about the fact of disrespecting the information. And so I've kind of got that in the back of my head.
Yeah.
And then when I'm listening to them talk about ADHD, and they also, I think, refer to OCD in there as well, some of the information that they're referring to is not even, it's not correct. It's scientifically not correct. So, you know, just the mere fact that they had mentioned that about ADHD being a personality disorder, I'm like, no, that's not correct information. It's a neurodevelopmental disorder. There's certain deficits that happen. You're talking about a 3 to 4 year delay in maturation of the brain. There's certain key places that it happens. It's an executive function, blah, 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 blah. And even the way they described OCD. So to me, that's where I feel like it went amiss. And so I don't know what to do with that. And I'm not sure why that's happening. I don't know where they're getting their information from. So it's like, are they doing it just to, is it because they didn't consume the sensory?
They didn't.
Is it because they did and they just have a different conclusion?
No, they did not consume that shit.
Okay, so with that then, that leads me then to my concern of, then it comes down in my mind to should they, because I think the question in there was, should they be having these type conversations?
Mm-hmm. Wait, what do you mean? Type as in personality type or just?
No. Should they be talking about ADHD?
Okay. Yeah.
And that's where people were getting upset too, as well. Because if the sensory isn't correct, then you're in essence not coming to the best conclusions or the right conclusions. And so to me, a little bit of it is, one, I think at best, it's either they don't fully understand it, so they weren't checking the sensory, and I would be cautious with that because they're wanting to come out at some point, at least from what I remember, to the scientific community.
Yeah.
And so, one, take double blind off your site because it's incorrect, put the right thing up there. And also, if you're going to do that, then be correct in your sensory and kind of come out to that. So, but it's up to them. I don't know what they want to do with that. I don't know what their handle is. At worst, to me, it can come off a little bit. You have to be cautious with that because we're talking about mental illness and the potential that oversimplification may inadvertently add to stigma in a sense. And I think that oversimplification as well might lead someone to think and basically try to solve their issue on the wrong battlefront.
Right.
So I had this one lady that I was working with, and she kept going into the hospital for suicidal ideations, like hardcore attempts. Mm-hmm. And so she had a psychiatrist, a therapist, a primary care physician. She had all these different people looking at her. And the psychiatrist is thinking, well, let's get you on antidepressants and that's going to solve it. It wasn't fixing it. You had a therapist that working on coping skills and that helped, but it didn't fix it. You had a PCP that's working on other stuff. So here's the thing about it. In her chart, I kept noticing in the lab work that she had having thyroid issues. And I said, are you getting your thyroid dealt with? And she said, no, they don't think it's that big of a deal. We connected her with the endocrinologist. She fixed her thyroid. She fixed her depression. She fixed her suicidal ideation. She stopped going inpatient because that was the right battlefront.
Yeah.
So it's like personality to me doesn't explain everything.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like, it's okay if we're still looking at the behaviors of ADHD, sometimes there's an overlap with the person's sleep last, OE, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that it's the full story. It doesn't mean that it's the upstream. So you may be seeing the downstream.
Yeah.
So if you're just trying to sit here and work your demons or whatever it is that you feel and think it's a personality issue, a soul issue, a whatever, maybe it's a B12 deficiency. Maybe you need to get your blood sugar fixed. Maybe it's like all these other possibilities.
Right.
So that's kind of my take on it.
Yeah, that's really good. I will confess I have a problem with I do what you are frustrated Dave and Shannon you think are doing, right? In the sense of I try to over explain things with OP. I do.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, I definitely see a lot of things through that filter.
Yeah.
I agree. Totally agree.
So I know you wanted my hot take. I think that's what's happening, right? You know,
I agree.
where it's like they have personality type and they know it really well. And they are admittedly seeing a lot of things that other people aren't seeing.
Yes, absolutely.
But because of that, they're like, oh, well, it must be in. Yeah, it's literally, oh, why? It must be in here somewhere.
Right.
Right. It's, so that's.
But it may not be in that box.
Exactly.
So people watching. So my thing is so for people for watching, it's just, fight for finding out what's the upstream. It may not be that box. It could be part of that box, and it doesn't hurt to work on yourself in certain ways and do those things, but it could be in a completely different box. I mean, it could be something else entirely. So be careful. I would take it with a grain of salt and not think that that's the end all, or, and not get the help that you need, whatever way that looks like, therapy or medication or lifestyle change or whatever that is.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. Really good. I got the inter-rater reliability written down too.
So our company, by the way, and here's the thing about it, we cannot put personality in a petri dish.
Okay.
So we can't put it in a petri dish and study it with a double-blind randomized controlled trial, which is the gold standard. We can't do that. The best we have usually is correlation.
Right.
It's just looking at correlation. And so, as a healthcare company, we pay out billions for inter-rater reliability. So it's not that it's a less than, it's just different. And it's amazing how they have come up with the stuff they've come up with. It's incredible. Right. I mean, that's why I spend more time with OPS than MBTI or, kind of switched over from Enneagram. I still love Enneagram, but I still spend a whole lot more time through the lens of OPS.
Right. Okay. Really good. Really good.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I don't know that was controversial enough, though. I don't know. Did you feel like I threw it out?
Don't worry. I'll make it hot somehow. I'll make it dramatic somehow.
I'm trying to be super judicious and be careful with my words and do a little.
Don't trust me. I'll figure it out.
Okay.
Okay. Let's do it. Let's do a bit of your interests, and then we'll do Q&A.
Yeah.
Okay. So your interests. I know you're doing coaching. Big fucking surprise. I know you were doing coaching. You got to tell me about the coaching.
Yeah, I have love this last year because every single week we have to get together and do coaching. Yeah. And so it's like for the past year, that's what we have done. We have to do it over and over and over again. So the great thing about that is it really gets me to have to practice my intuition. That's a demon and sucks that it's a demon. Right. And also for me to practice stepping back, not fixing, it's the anti-TE for me. So it's like, I can't fix it. I don't have the answer. You have the answer. And so it's been really, really helpful for me to do that. So I'm looking forward to seeing. It's still going to probably be a side hustle unless something happens at my job, Right. And I end up going just back into private practice and doing coaching on top of that. So I'm just passionate about helping people through lifestyle and, there's so much that we can do with that to heal our bodies and heal our brains and feel better and optimize our health and optimize our well-being. And so I'm so passionate about that. I love it. It's how I ended up being able to overcome my bipolar disorder and be able to, now I've been medication free. I still have little pockets where I kind of deal with some of it, but I've been able to mitigate that and be medication free now for probably 7 years. So very, very passionate. That's what kind of brought me to it and other health issues that I've had and being able to find ways to heal my body and brain through that. So super excited about that, helping people who are just ready to find wellness and take their life to a certain degree higher.
Yeah, really good. Okay, so but the coaching is on it's still a side hustle.
It's gonna be a side hustle because
you don't want to put a plug to your site or whatever.
Oh, I haven't. I just haven't. I have to wait. I have to wait until I'm finished to be able to say that I'm certified and get everything, but I've built most of it. I just haven't finished my site yet.
So just guys, join the guest list, join the waiting list for her. She's coming out with her coaching. Okay, that's free money for you, Heather. You're welcome. Next,
thank you, Rich.
Let's talk about your blog. I forgot to put in the description, Demon SI. I'm sorry. I will do that.
No worries. Let's
talk about your blog, your writing.
Yeah, so that was something where I actually started it, not realizing that COVID was going to hit. And I started this blog, mainly it's a spiritual blog, just from a Christian perspective. So it's got different things in there, whether I'm doing, a certain passage out of the Bible and kind of breaking it down, talking about that, or I'm talking about my own personal experiences in my life. Different things that I've gone through, talking about, I also have other people, guest bloggers that come on and they'll throw in stuff about their life and just from a Christian perspective. So it's just kind of a mishmash of different things that are on there. I haven't written in a while because I got distracted last year. I had a couple of speaking engagements that I needed to focus on. And so I kind of put it on the side. I'll see if I pick it up again. If I do, it's just, it's once every now and again. It's just a place that's sitting there for me to go when I'm ready to throw it out there. Because for a while I feel like, okay, I'm obligated. Like you're supposed to do one every week or do one every month or whatever. And I just got to the place where I was just over that. So I do it when I feel like it. Okay, if it's something like I want to write, I love the creativity of it, enjoy it. And I love having other people have that place where when they want to write, to be able to put that out there where other people can see their writings and them to express themselves. So it's kind of in part share me, and they have the ability to share them as well.
Right. And that was, I think it was like Insights for the Journey or From the Journey?
From.
Thank you. Insights from the Journey. I'll put it in the description eventually, but if you guys.
And it's from a Christian perspective, so that's where it's coming from.
So do you know that thing called Google? Okay. Go ahead and Google that.
All right. It's a .com. You can actually just put it right in.
Exactly. Okay, really good. So let's do the Q&A or the live chat. I'll filter it for you so you don't have to hear about some bullshit. So first of all, Grace says hi. Always, she says hi. She says your sister.
Yeah.
Apparently, she wants to roast me. I don't get where that's coming from.
When do we get to do that?
I didn't know that either. Gray. Kim also says hi.
Yeah. Oh man, her memory, dude. Yeah. When she talked about that memory, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, really good. Yeah, it's scary.
Mine pales in comparison.
Yeah. Do you still feel like your memory is pretty strong though?
I mean, I don't remember what I ate yesterday. Not that kind of memory. Oh. It's more the internal SI kind of experiences that tend to get lodged. Yeah, and I want to see what you think about this too, and then that this stuff right there. So like I've heard, I think it was Leon that was talking about he has masculine NI. Is that correct?
No, he has masculine SE.
So feminine NI. Okay, so he must have been describing masculine SI or NI. I think it was him. He talked about like when it learns something or picks up on something, it like can't get rid of it. Like it struggles to get rid of it. So I was thinking about that with masculine SI. It's like I struggle to unexperience it.
Yeah.
I struggle to unexperience something. So to me, it just kind of gets lodged there, and I have a real tough time shaking loose of that.
Yeah, I have something like that, but it definitely feels more unconscious, right? I can, most of my day, I don't live like, it's weird. I feel very detached from time sometimes. It's like I just kind of am a present moment, like I'm just operating in the present moment, which is a lie. It's problematic because then it's problematic. It's not good. It's because you start like, one, you don't have a sense of trajectory, you don't have a sense of history, you don't have a grounding in reality if you don't have a grounding in time, right? But then also it's like, I'll repeat the same mistakes quite often. So but where my masculine SI it's still there. I still remember stuff, but it's like I have to like dig for it, right? Because I'm so non-time oriented, it's like I have to dig to be like, oh yeah, that did happen, and then I will remember it in great detail. So yeah, it's very
I'm definitely more time oriented, especially with being energy dom. Very conscious of it.
Yeah, I need to be more conscious of it. I wish. Savannah says hi. Okay. Savannah's great. Okay, so we got some questions for you.
Yeah.
All right. What's the I guess this is for me? So no one asked me questions. This is nice. Thank you, Kim. This is a question from me. What is the biggest difference I noticed between Heather and Kim? I mean, well, other than the masculine sensory thing we just talked about, I don't get that. My mind doesn't feel like I'm gonna get arrested or something like that. That's how I'm sorry, Kim. When I talk to you, she's like, Reggie, let's talk about this. And you're not doing it like to force me. It's just your natural style. So, and I don't feel that way when I talk with you, Heather. I would say other than that, I don't know how to say this in a nice way. Heather seems more calm. Like Kim, you're a little bit more, like you're more explosive, right? Heather, I mean, granted, she may be older, so she may have toned it down. I don't know, whatever. But as of right now, it's more of an even-keeled energy talking with her. Not that that's bad. Not that one's better or worse. I'm just saying it's different. Okay. Interestingly, I feel like, Heather, you don't talk about people as explicitly as Kim does. I still think you care about it. But like my experience with Kim is Kim will say, like, she'll literally, like, guys, watch the episode with her. It's like people is coming out of Kim's mouth a lot. Okay. So there's a difference.
Yeah.
With you, it's not that explicit. It's there. I do see it.
Yeah.
It's not as explicit. Honestly, for you, it's more of like the power dynamics is what you're paying attention to. I don't think Kim talked about that. Kim was just more about people. I like people. This is a great person. That's a great person. You, it's like, yo, fuck you. I want my rating.
Yeah. I love that, man. I needed that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put that in my email, not send it. My fear is like I would accidentally send it or something like that.
I know. I've done shit like that. That's why when you do a draft, never put the email of the person in there.
Okay. Let me take it a step further, yo. So here's what I had done. So this is so funny because this is the TESI evidence. Because like you don't want a double masculine ESTJ on the other side of you when like you of the evidence. So it's like what I had gotten an email from one of the people I had trained, and they were just saying, oh, I was really wondering whether I should be in this company or not. Just all your training just influenced me and encouraged me. And I'm so glad I'm here and all this stuff. So I sent that off to my manager, who loved it, of course, being Effie. And so she sends it up. So then my boss's boss sent it to the top guy. I got all of these strings of emails from all the way down of like, hey, you're exactly what this company exemplifies and blah, blah, blah. So Reggie, what I did not send, but did is I took that email that he had written that told me how amazing I was and exemplified that exceeds. And that's what I had replied to in all of the string below it. And that's where I put my email. Because I'm like, here's all the evidence on top of the fact of my evaluation. You yourself. Okay, I'm getting worked up. I'm going to stop. I'm calming down right now. Yeah.
You're reckless. You would have sent that.
I did not send it. I wasn't going to send it. It was just, there was a part of me that's like, should I fight for this for everyone?
That's some bullshit.
The only one that got screwed over.
I'm calling bullshit. I'm sorry. I know you're DE. I know you think
it was first me. There was a little part of it.
No, that's bullshit too. That's bullshit too. Come on, Heather. Yeah, I know you better than this.
Yeah.
That was 100% an FI. I'm not being respectful.
Yeah. No, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And even to that, thinking about if this company starts going down because you lose all the high achievers, then eventually that's going to impact my job and impact that. So yeah, I think you're right.
As a tangent, I hate when DE does
Right.
this. I hate when DE does this. We always do this. No, it was really about them. No, it wasn't. It really wasn't. It was about you fucked with me. That's the problem.
Yeah. You're right.
All right. So
Confess.
by the way, Heather, I don't want to hear it. I don't want you messaging me 2 hours later saying, Reggie, how dare you call me out on the show? You know, I love you.
No, it wouldn't happen. Reggie be the opposite going, you know, did I offend you in anything? Okay, we've already said I'm feminine FI.
Okay. All right.
No, but I think to me, Kim, like when I was watching, she seems more confident than me though. She seems like more assured, and
it's a different type of confidence. I will say, I think I'm tracking what you're saying. Kim is, she will fight you, like destroy you.
Yeah, she's stronger than me.
No, I wouldn't say that. It's just it's more she's. That's my description of you, Kim. This that's you. Okay. I think Heather, you're more of like a sword. You're just slicing people. This is a weird anything. You know, just Kim is very blunt. You're very sharp. That's the difference.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. There you go, Kim. You
like that.
Kim, please don't slide in my DMs being like, Reggie, how dare you? I'm guys, I'm trying. Okay. All right. Now, what is your advice for other masculine TEs, Heather?
Okay, I've had to figure out like what vein. See, there's that N that's killing me. I want to know what vein she's talking about. I want to make sure I answer the right thing. But let me just answer what comes to mind for me then.
Yeah.
As far as like, you know, I think that to me, it is just using that energy as far as the masculine part of it, just using that energy when it's needed and knowing when to use it, when not to use it. And also recognizing, you know, when sometimes that masculine, that wall that you're putting up, the problem is kind of what I was saying is it's keeping you as well from FI being able to experience a more openness and being able to take in stuff, because I'm so like this of being able to take in and accept. And so like when I get these compliments or things that come, I have to really stop and deeply, you know, absorb that.
Yeah.
It's a struggle for me. So unless Gray can think of something more specific along that line.
Yeah, Gray. Do the ST, Gray.
Sorry, I didn't know.
No. I'm not even laughing at you. I'm laughing at Gray because I know she's about to put something in the comments that's gonna be so ST. Just watch.
Okay.
Watch. She can't help it.
Okay, let me bring this up though. Let me tell you a struggle for me as a woman with masculine TE. So let me say this, because we didn't necessarily talk about that, especially as double masculine.
Yeah, go ahead.
The problem is where I have struggled is for many years, I felt like, I mean, one, I was just barreling through life. I was a tomboy, double masculine, banging on everything, just whatever. You know, I play acoustic guitar. You know, when I sing, it's like blasting, filling up the room. I play drums and I'm like, you know, just all over the map. And so the problem is that society doesn't necessarily accept that. So for a very long time as an EJ, I want to belong. I want a tribe. And so I kept shaping and molding myself going, wait a minute, this isn't acceptable by the tribe. And I didn't click with that until junior high, when all the girls were putting on makeup. And I'm like, well, crap, I don't know where this stuff goes and how to do this, but I wanted to belong. I wanted to fit in. There's been times when, you know, I've been equated to, okay, so my husband and I were leading worship at one point. That's what we used to do. We were leading worship at one point. So on the team, I had said something to fix something. And one of the guys, a jerk, basically said, oh, wow, look at the Hillary Clinton. You see my FI. Look at this Hillary Clinton, which at the time basically meant she was trying to be president instead of Bill. It's kind of, yeah, exactly. And so I immediately, shame filled me. And I was like, just buckled. And I was like, oh my gosh, and is that what I'm doing? So that masculine energy as a woman isn't always acceptable. And so it's brought a lot of shame. For many times I'm like, oh, am I really, you know, I don't feel like I fit in with women, and I don't know, I don't relate to them. I don't knit, I don't sew, I don't cook, I don't do all this stuff. And so it took a long time to not feel less than as a female and as a woman. And I finally came to the conclusion, oh no, I do have a lot of similarities. and to start seeing the similarities instead of feeling like, I don't belong. But yeah, it's a tough ride sometimes, I think, for masculine.
Would you, before we move on to the next question, would you encourage people with masculine TE to find other people with masculine TE to interact with or something?
Yeah, or just embrace yourself and just embrace the fact that it's beautiful. And I've realized that it's not always appropriate, that particular function at that particular moment. But I'm not separate than my FI or my NE or the S. All of that makes who I am. And I think it's a beautiful thing. If you want someone to fight for you, then get a masculine I was in volleyball, and the coach and the players were making fun of another girl on the team, mocking her for ethnicity, mocking her for her weight. I stood up, walked off that court for her in front of everyone. And I sat over there, and they're going to beat me up and this and that. And my coach made me run laps for that. I would do it all over again in a heartbeat. I mean, I'm going to fight for you. I'm going to be with the one that sees the person who's over here sitting alone and they're brokenhearted or they're sad or they're whatever. I'm going to go sit with that person and be with them. So yeah, I think there's a beauty to it. So just know when to use that stuff and how to use that. I don't know. Yeah. That's the way I've learned.
Yeah, really good. Really good. All right. So let's see here. There's a lot of feelings in the chat. I don't deal with feelings, right? So just imagine a lot of people saying really nice things about you, okay?
That's sweet.
All right, here's another question. At times, does the masculine SI feel like the more tougher, more strict function? I don't know in comparison to what, but...
Yeah. Because to me, what SI is doing in my life is the guardrails of my life.
Okay.
Yeah, SI is that structure. And so in the one point, I'm afraid if I don't have the SI in there, I'm going to go off the rails. So for instance, I'll give you for instance, when I did my bodybuilding competition, I had gotten down to probably about 10, 11, maybe 12% body fat. I was just ripped. And so I put a lot of work into getting there. And so there was this so I put everything in, but I got overly obsessive with it. So I was tracking everything. I was weighing myself all the time. I had my Fitbit telling me what I was expending, what I was putting in, all of that. And so I had all these guardrails that got a little bit too tight. And so once I was done with my competition and I was just like, well, what do I do now? It scared me to death to not have those guardrails and to actually live a little bit more intuitively. And to let go of them. Because if I let go of that, am I going to put on weight? Am I going to lose my muscle? All of these things. So what I had to do literally is I had to throw the scale away. I threw my Fitbit away. I stopped tracking everything so that it was out of sight, out of mind. Because if it's in my sight, if I sensorily see that stuff, it's just right there for me. And I feel like either I've succeeded or I've failed. So I like the guardrails because they've kept my crazy ENF, especially when I would be manic or have the mania where I kind of ditch my ST, I ditch those guardrails and kind of go off. It still was there enough to know to keep me in check. So yes, I feel it can be very strict. Okay. More on me than other people though.
Okay. Really good. Next, we have a lot of questions.
Okay.
Yeah. So you ready? So next, Heather, do you know? Yeah, you can read it.
Okay. So do I notice? Sorry, I'm an old lady. I'm going to back up. Do I notice my body's? Yeah. Sometimes. Yeah. There's a bit of an angst that starts welling up in me. I start feeling something, especially if it's a desire to fix things. I will feel that fix-it reflex that comes up in me very strongly. Usually there's not a lot of emotions that I feel, but I feel a sense of fear that comes, like the anger I'm comfortable with, the fear I'm comfortable with, because I just feel them all the time. But like sadness makes me a little bit uncomfortable. And it makes me nervous. I get a little bit scared. What do I do with it? Strong emotion doesn't almost physically hurt. Okay. Now I'm reading the rest of that. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it does. And it feels good though, sometimes to have that release. Like this last week over all of that, I just cried. I cried really, really hard and it felt good.
Right.
Because I don't normally do that.
Yeah, it does that. But I'm glad you did that. I wouldn't have done that, but okay. I think that's all the questions.
Okay.
everything else is really just imagine a lot of really warm feelings. Oh my God, you're great. Your masculine TE is great, and I should be coached by you. And that was crazy, and that was really well thought out. All that. Just imagine just really warm FE feelings right now.
Okay. Love it. I love FE.
There you go. There you go. So that's it, Heather. Again, really appreciate it. I'm gonna do my awkward blast now for 2-3 minutes.
I loved it, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, no problem. So let me do my awkward blast. Guys, yeah, just start jumping out. I already see the view count going down. It's okay. So Heather has other interviews.
Here for you, Reggie.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. So Heather has other interviews. I think you have one with Kendrick, and I think Benjamin.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, go watch that. I didn't go into, oh, what's your play like? And I don't care about that stuff, guys. All right. Type her name in. That's great. Next, game night, Saturday, February 6th, 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern, 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be playing Among Us Jackbox Party, okay? Feel free to sign up. Don't be a stranger. We sell some spots for you, okay? Next, I don't give a fuck about thumbs downs. Leave a comment. Put a thumbs up, thumbs down, just so I can see what's going on, okay? Just, Also, feel free to subscribe so you can get the notifications of who's coming next. I have some guys. Someone's coming out on Tuesday, assuming they show up. But the Tuesday one's gonna be hype. I think the Friday or the Saturday one's gonna be also hype. Okay. Subscribe so you can get the notifications. I'm tired of trying to chase you guys down. All right. And then again, Heather has websites. She has insightsfromthejourney.com. I think. I'll put it in the description eventually. Okay, so feel free to check her out, support her. Also, remember she does coaching, so when she gets her website up, feel free to go and pay her to coach you. Okay, there you go. That's about it. I'm over it. This is about 4 minutes, so we should be done. Heather, again, really appreciate it. This is really meaningful to me. There's a lot of people in the chat. I know I didn't go through all of it, but there are a lot of people in the chat. Trust me, maybe when you reconsume it, if that's gonna happen, just go through the live chat. You'll see all the support there. Okay. Everyone else, thank you for joining, and I'll see you on the next one.